Hey, everybody, welcome back. HSC Podcast 95. Got Big Box Steve on the mic, Big Smooth, and Fresh Wes. The whole crew here. Tonight's episode, big episode, finishing up college football, starting the NFL playoffs, recap the season. Should be pretty great. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe, like, comments. Love those. And for all of the Spotify, Anchor, and Apple Podcasts. Thanks for listening. Well, let's jump right into it because what a big game we had, yesterday. Talking college football, obviously the national championship game. Uh, Quite a few things to talk about. I think you see, guys. So Michigan, right, finally kind of gets over the hump. Harbaugh, some people have questions. I think he answers those. Michigan as a program hasn't really showed they could show up in the big games, and then um, undefeated season, everything to go with that. So, what's your first take on the game in general, the season, and Michigan?
Washington's defense in the first half just couldn't tackle or stop the run at all. And I mean, the second half they did a lot better, but I mean, they gave up what, over 200 yards rushing in the first half.
Yeah, I mean 300 yards total, right, for the game, or
Yeah.
so, over 300.
That and then the pass rush of Michigan really took its toll on Penix. Yeah, he was rushing a lot.
He didn't look super comfortable in the pocket, did he? Not like he has in the past. I think it was Kirk Herbstreit was talking about this on Pat McAfee show. He's talking about, Michigan didn't do it with pressure like they did against Alabama either. They brought pressure. It's not like they didn't pressure the whole game, but it wasn't, more pressure than not like it was on Milrow.
Yeah.
So
I
that's
mean,
that's valid. We talked a little bit about it on the last podcast. I said I think Washington's defense is the question mark
right.
going into the game. Like I don't know if I 100% trust them, and they didn't play horrible. They had moments where they played well, but then they had moments where it looked like they were going to give up 500 yards rushing.
It was only a 7-point game at halftime, and then
Yeah.
Washington didn't score again.
Yeah. What was your thing stuck out for you, Wes?
It was just a tough game for Washington. It just seemed like Michigan had a good game plan to confuse Penix enough where he had to go through way too many options. Um, and then they started getting to him in the second half, banged him up. I thought the Dylan Johnson thing was overplayed. I think he was not healthy. He kept
No.
giving him the ball. Like they almost screwed up in the Texas game by doing this.
Yeah.
They were carving Texas. Keep throwing the ball, annihilate them, finish them off. And they kept running the ball a little bit too much in the first half. They had some momentum on one drive. Penix had a couple completions. Then they go back to running the ball. It's like he just never got into a rhythm. Michigan's defense played great. Whatever they
Don't you
did on the
think?
back end, it really confused him, and Aduze and him just couldn't really. They just seemed like they just didn't have that connection.
Right.
Polk was nowhere to be seen, which I thought that was a big issue. And yeah, it's just, give credit to Michigan's defense.
Right.
They play. It was a great game plan, and that's Harbaugh. Harbaugh was going to draw something up that was going to, you know, they would need to make an adjustment at some point, and they just couldn't make that adjustment.
Well, there's two important points there is number one is like, do you think, because I'm watching this game, at some point you got to think that Dylan Johnson is hurting them more than he's
Oh yeah,
helping them.
yeah,
And I saw that happening right from the beginning of the game. I'm like, yeah, I get it. You got heart, you're trying, you're out there, it's your potentially,
yeah.
who knows what your future looks like, especially with this type of injury. You want to play, but at some point, you got to look at that and say you're hurting the team more than you're helping the team.
Yeah, he was, and I didn't understand. You keep giving him the ball. It's like, you know what? You
He
got to
wasn't
empty the.
moving.
There was only one way I thought they would win the game is if they emptied the clip on Michigan. Like
Right.
we didn't see something in the Texas game. Like they're kind of holding some stuff back because that was the only way, and I thought they could do it because I mean Aduze, McMillan, Polk. I mean, just right there. I
Right.
mean, they could really hurt Michigan, but it seems like they just couldn't figure it out. And Penix looked frustrated. Then he got hurt. Then he looked like he aged like 5 years in that game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like he's just limping around and his foot was hurt. So yeah, it was the Washington. I just didn't like their they they just didn't like them they didn't make any adjustments at all. It seemed like
No,
they
not
couldn't
in the
figure it
same.
out.
It felt like they even though they stopped the run a little bit better, it wasn't the adjustments they made. I think their linebackers fought through some blocks and were making better tackles. I don't think they necessarily made any adjustments to their game plan, which I think hurt them in the second half.
Well, also with when you were saying about rhythm, how many times did they have a big play, get called back for a stupid penalty that, and I'm not saying they did,
Yeah,
they
I,
had
I think
penalties that were stupid, but it would like, oh, you got a 30-yard gain. Oh no, you got a
Yeah,
hold.
they got the holding, couple called back, and then also you got to look at like the missed passes for those big plays
Mhm.
too. Like they
Yeah.
miss a couple balls, or a ball's thrown slightly over the head, or the one that stuck out for me when you talk about, that was the second point of what Wes said was it didn't look like Ndunze and Michael Penix Jr. were on the same page really, because you have arguably what people would call the best or at least top three receiver in the nation, right? So some people put him ahead of Neighbors and Marvin Harrison Jr. Some people put him behind. But the point being is if you can't be on the same page with that guy in this game, then you got a problem. I would rather look, maybe this is just me looking at a Monday morning quarterback, looking at the game from the outside, but I would rather take a sack or throw into coverage to try to get Ndunze the ball. Instead,
yeah,
you've
there
got 3 or 4 plays he's running around wide open,
there was a couple times he is open,
like
and you're
wide
just like
open.
you're looking on the wrong side of the field. It's like why are you not looking at the like top receiver in the country wide open? And it's just like it seemed like they Penix, he was just off. He wasn't. I think he was maybe a little rattled. I mean, Michigan's defense is legit.
Yeah,
Those guys, I mean, 55, the Harris, that true sophomore. I mean, I think you're watching. Where's he at? Where's he? Is he coming? Like the way he played against Alabama, I think they got a little bit too tentative with the pressure. Like it wasn't really the pressure early. It was just the fact that on the back end, Jim Harbaugh just he threw it up to confuse him, and they couldn't adjust. And yeah, it was hard to watch because you're just like, there's a guy open. You
yeah.
got a guy running down the middle. The tight end's running down the middle. He's open. He can't, he couldn't handle it. And you know, it sucked.
Maybe now
I,
Penix can drop to the Raiders, right?
I mean, it does. It feels like he folded a little bit, to be honest
a
with you.
little
It
bit.
it does feel like Yeah, there was great defensive calls. Michigan got good pressure rushing 4, which helps because that means you got linebackers in coverage. That means you got, all 7 available in your zone, and that helps, right? But even with that, there were still open receivers.
Right.
Yeah, of
Well, the
course.
right tackle had a horrible game, and that's
Oh yeah,
for
especially
Penix,
in the
73
second
was
half.
bad.
and
Yeah.
Penix is left-handed, so that's your blind side. And so I think that rattled Penix a lot, was because there was some plays where it was like, there's a guy, his guy in the backfield. I'm like,
Well,
dude,
the first play of the second half, that's what really, that's when his right tackle he kind of screwed up, and the guy rolled into his ankle, and
Right.
that kind of hobbled him the whole game. He just didn't seem right. And he was,
He got hit a lot, but he didn't get sacked a lot. He got hit a
yeah,
lot, which I think just wore on him by the end of the game because you saw him holding his ribs. You saw him.
yeah,
It wasn't. You saw him limping. I mean,
yeah.
when by the end of the game, when you're limping and holding your ribs as a quarterback, you've had a rough go at it.
yeah, and they didn't
And
even touch
that's tough.
McCarthy.
Right. Yeah, McCarthy didn't have to do a whole lot, and obviously not an impressive game for that side of it because he didn't have to. He had a couple big runs at a couple important times. He also made some mistakes though, right? He got lucky again, with a bad throw. And obviously their running game held them on offense with those big runs, and their offensive line did a great job. But Washington's defense didn't help them all out either, like taking bad angles on their pursuit angles. Those 2 touchdowns, the first 2 touchdowns, you're like, what's the safety doing? You're like,
Just
that's the worst tackling angle. Like, you're the last line of
yeah.
defense, man. You gotta take an angle to
It,
to push
it's
him out.
it's honestly, it's when I got done, I was like, I need a nap after this. Like this game, it's hard to put in words. Like there are things that happen in that game I couldn't wrap my head around.
Yeah,
Like those runs by Edwards, I'm like, what are you guys doing on the second one? I'm like, what are you doing? Like you can't really make sense of what they were doing. And they kind of hung around in the game, which was odd that Michigan couldn't run the ball at all. And it's like, it was a very odd game and it was hard to watch. And it's like, of course, I want Washington to win, but I just think they left a lot on the field. I also think they were overmatched too. This
right.
Michigan team's been playing together for a while, and Blake Corum is one of my favorite players. You knew eventually, like, okay, yeah, he's gonna get his, and it's just unfortunate for Washington to only score 13 points. I know Michigan's defense is good. They're not that good.
It was
They left a
unbelievable.
lot on the field.
Yeah, a lot of mistakes. By Washington, they definitely should have scored more. Plenty of chances to do it. They made too many mistakes. Michigan made fewer mistakes, and defense played a little better. I mean, so
And the one thing I think was a factor too, that was like a home game for Michigan.
they had
It was
so many fans.
loud.
Yeah.
And there was like 4 or 5, false start penalties. That didn't help their rhythm either. The offensive line, yeah, they just look kind of confused themselves. And
Yeah, I
yeah,
can't say their line held up like advertised anyway, and so that was rough for them. But you made a pretty good point when you talk about Michigan, how they're losing like all of their players. These guys have been together for a long time. This was their year, and they finished it out, right? So who knows what that means for Michigan long term, especially if they lose Harbaugh to the NFL. And I can't remember the number, but it's almost every position and sometimes too deep at some of these positions
yeah,
that they're losing seniors.
Well, and then Washington's losing tons too.
Yeah, and
yeah.
Washington I think is in more trouble than
Polk
Michigan.
just announced he's gone. Polk's declaring.
Yeah, there's no reason for him to stay. What's he going to
No.
stay for?
Yeah, Penix is gone. They got the kid. They got Will Rogers coming in from Mississippi State. I don't care. It's not Penix. It's not. You're not going to bring guys back with Will Rogers.
No,
I mean,
and not your when you're losing your running back, your receivers, your quarterback, like that's going to be tough on
Tuesday's
Washington.
gone. Like, yeah.
So I think both of them are going to get hit hard. We'll talk more draft obviously later because we got a lot of draft topics we can hit. But the one question, because I mean, Derek, you mentioned this, but this is a legitimate question in my mind now. There's a lot of hype around Penix after the Texas game. How much does this game affect his draft value?
I don't really think if it affects it at all. I mean, think about look at some of Zach Wilson, Trubisky. You can name a bunch of quarterbacks that did nothing winning wise in college. I would put him fourth quarterback taken.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
yeah. So do people look at? I mean, so I don't dislike Penix. I'm not a huge Penix fan. I could take it or leave it, right? But do you not kind of look at his injury history? You look at kind of the way this game went with the injuries, the way he, I feel like he kind of got rattled and lost his composure a little bit. Does that not factor in for you guys, into that long term? Like if I'm looking at them as a quarterback,
I mean, any quarterback gets hit a lot is going to get rattled.
It's like I wanted the whole year watching him. I like him, but I'm not going to reach for him in the draft. And the thing is there's always, and even the announcers talked about it. Yeah, they got him off his spot. There's certain things he seems like he doesn't like to go outside the pocket and throw the ball. Doesn't seem very comfortable at it. And he is fairly athletic, but the injuries have mounted over the last couple of years. I mean, 4 seasons at Indiana, your season ends with an injury. I guarantee you, evaluators are going to look at that, and that's going to be a major factor. And that's why I think he's barely a top. I think there's teams that need quarterbacks. So, I think the Saints are one team that they're saying, we do got Derek Carr, but you know what? It's Derek Carr too. If some of these teams, if he falls to them, I could see that. But there are a lot of question marks. He throws a 40-yard laser like nobody you've ever seen. But at the same time, it's not just the NFL. There's so many different aspects. And it seems like he did struggle reading Michigan's defense and what they were doing. And there's times he seems a little lost. I see the Oregon games. Like he just, like I said, I think, Derek's right on that. Yeah, he's like top 5, 4. I think
that will still get him taken in the top 13.
Yeah, it may still get him up there.
There's no way. I mean, Jaden Daniels is above him. It's just.
Well, yeah. It's Williams, May, Daniels, and then Penix probably. Then Nix and McCarthy.
And Nix, yeah.
You think he goes ahead of Nix, huh?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of value in Nix. I think there's teams like the Vikings, like later in the draft. If Nix is there or he's close, I would go for Nix. Well,
I think the best, I mean, I don't think it's a terrible thing for Penix to drop. I think he could really do well going to a team that has a quarterback where he could sit, for a year or two, learn, get healthy, build up his confidence, things like that in the NFL and come off. So I don't think that's a terrible thing for him.
There's just so many teams need quarterbacks right now, though.
Yeah, it's going to be a super draft heavy, for quarterbacks for sure. But it's going to be interesting to see where he falls or where he gets drafted.
That's why the
Not that
Bears
he'll,
should keep Fields and trade the pick, right, Steve?
yeah, dude. We will talk a lot about draft as it comes up, but this is the ideal situation if you're looking to gain some draft capital and get some good stuff. Because let's think about this, right? Just for a second. The 4 or 5 quarterbacks we just talked about. Now add in Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, and Roman Duze. So now you've got almost 8. You got 8 star positions
Brock
of the first
Bowers.
of the first 15, right? So
Yeah.
where are these other guys going to fall? Like these potential superstar defensive players, potential best offensive linemen. You get a number 2 offensive lineman at like 8, 9, or 10, or that it's almost flooding the market to a point where if you hold off on quarterback, you may get a really great player between 8 and 15.
Yeah.
Well, I've been doing a bunch of mock simulators just because, and I know it's not realistic all the time, but like Dallas Turner keeps dropping to the
Yeah.
Raiders 13. I'm like, he's the best pass rusher in the
Oh,
draft.
easily. Yeah, he's like the other guy. He's like Will Anderson.
Yeah.
He's basically Will Anderson, and you're going to get
Basically,
him instead of what 2, you're going to get him at or 3 or whatever they got him at. You're going to get him at like 15 or
Yeah.
13. So yeah,
Yeah, because you also
there's
have
a
Chop Robinson.
right.
Yeah, there's 3 tackles that will probably be taken in the top 13.
Yeah, so it's just for me when I start looking at that, like a couple teams are going to get some real studs late in the first round, mid to late first round, if they're just willing to say, you know what, go ahead and take all those guys. I'm going to grab the solid guy in the draft, like
Well, like I
a
think the
Dallas
one
Turner.
because you talked about Neighbors and Aduze and Harrison Jr. Well, Xavier Legette from South Carolina, he's up there
Right.
too, but he's gonna be like your guy that is like a Jordan Addison or something that drops to like 18.
Right. Well, then nobody's talking about Travis at quarterback either. Why? He got injured, but still, if he comes back healthy, he's no slouch at
was
quarterback.
he coming out?
Yeah, he's a
Yeah.
senior. He has
He's
I
to.
a
think he
senior.
has to,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Well,
Well,
Isn't he
the
like a
one,
6 year senior?
yeah,
I don't know.
he is up
Yeah.
there.
Oh yeah, I mean,
The one again, I haven't seen where he fits in the rankings. Come on, Cam Ward.
Right. Cam Ward.
yeah, Cam Ward's coming out.
He declared, right? So and
Wow.
you put him on an NFL evaluation and you put him against any of those guys, he will stack up
Yeah,
He's
physically,
going to
the way
start
he throws
rising
the
up the
ball.
draft boards.
Right. So again, so now you got 2 more quarterbacks to throw in the mix. And you just keep adding them in. Like it's
Li-
nuts.
Liberty's quarterback.
Right.
oh God.
Yeah, there's just a lot, and so I'm just wondering with all the quarterbacks in there, and what people look at, after this game. I know it's only one game, but you've seen quarterbacks who haven't had great careers, get drafted, but you've also seen guys who kind of failed right at the end, and it carried through the rest. You know, they just have that really big bad bowl loss, or got injured in a bowl, and it kind of hurt them, long term. So
It also comes down to like arm strength and everything like that too.
yeah. Well, and what team he goes to, like that, there's a lot of factors, obviously. All right, so yeah, we'll have plenty of time to talk draft. Once it gets closer and you start seeing some of the trades and things like that. So let's get into NFL. Let's see. So what were you guys' records last week?
10-6.
10-6. Guys 9-7.
I'll have to look at my. I forgot.
You're probably around similar, right?
Yeah, I had to be around there. I didn't have a very good week.
So that really puts, but still, obviously, because we aren't catching, you weren't catching Wes because he was. So Wes, you were 7 games ahead going into the last week.
Yeah.
I really doubt, that would have changed much.
No.
I
But
was so mad. Okay, so I'm going to my son's basketball game. It's at 5 o'clock, so we're leaving around 4ish. So some of the afternoon games are still going. I leave with the Cardinals winning
Oh God.
and what was the other? Oh, the Chargers winning. And I'm like,
right,
sweet. I'm gonna pick up those games. Then I look and I'm like, they both lost to like
they both
last.
lost. Yeah, I think that saved me, or it helped me a lot because I wasn't having a very good week until a couple of those final games. I
I know. I
finished
was like, I'm gonna end the year on like 13-3 or something, and then I'm like,
right. But still, you look at that. Let's, Wes will probably be like 170 and 100 around that. So that's a good finish. Derek was talking about, you would finish ahead of any of the Bleacher Report guys, where he would have been even second here would have been tied or better than their first guy. So overall, like I kind of felt like we struggled at times, but we really didn't have that poor of a season as far as overall picks. It was pretty
Well,
good.
then what we haven't done, I thought about this today, is we look at our initial picks, like who we're gonna pick to make the playoffs, and a
Yeah.
few of
So
them, are comical.
yeah, that's what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to do two things. We're going to talk about what we picked, and then we're going to talk about what the actual playoffs we call it. So I don't know if you guys have yours handy, if
No,
you
I don't.
remember yours, but I keep mine. I have mine on my list.
All I know is I can't believe the Saints still have their coach has a job at this point.
Yeah. Well, so if you look at we'll start with what I got for the NFC. So I had the Eagles, the 49ers, the Lions, the only 3 teams that I picked to make it that made it. Because I had the Saints. I think we all had the Saints.
yeah.
A couple of us, I know at least one of you guys had the Giants as well.
I had this. I didn't have the Giants. I had the
I think
Seahawks.
maybe Derek, you had the Giants too.
Yeah.
But I had the Giants and the
I think we.
Seahawks.
I had the Bears.
Yeah, I had the Bears as well. But I know Wes, you had the Cowboys in there, which I didn't have the Cowboys in there, which was I look back, I'm like, that's dumb. Why didn't I have the Cowboys going? And then, but yeah, I mean, as far as the division winners, I thought we thought the Eagles would win the division, even though they still made the playoffs. Obviously they didn't win the division. The Saints were the big disappointment. Bears were kind of a wild card team as far as making it. Obviously they had some games they lost that they should have won. They could have made it, but they just didn't
Yeah.
play up to standards. And then the Giants just laid an egg. Like the Giants, after making the playoffs last year, winning a playoff game last year.
Yeah.
And then the Seahawks kind of just floundered at the end of the season. The Seahawks should have made the playoffs. So they kind of fell apart late in the season. Because at one time they were tied for the lead to the division with the 49ers.
Yeah.
So we weren't terribly far off, but yeah, only 3 of my 7 teams in the NFC made the playoffs.
Yeah. It sounds same with me. It looks like same 3 teams.
Yeah. Well, I think Wes had the Cowboys, so I think he was 4 of 7.
Yeah.
And then in the AFC, the big one there is the Bengals, right? So we all had the Bengals not necessarily winning the division, but we had them going to the playoffs, which they didn't make it.
I
Derek,
had
I think
the
you had
Ravens
the
being the number one
Ravens.
seed though.
Yeah, you had the Ravens winning
Yeah.
the division. But the Jags is the other one, right? I think we all had the Jags.
Well, did I send you that thing where they were 9-3?
Yeah. And talk about
Or they were
going
eight
from
and
9
three.
and 3 to going to out of the playoffs.
Yeah.
Dolphins, I think we all had the Dolphins. We had some wild card teams, like I think Derek had the Jets and I had the Chargers. Like they just no chance, right?
I don't know.
And then yeah, so here again, 1, 2, 3, 4, only 4 teams.
Right.
So this was a low for us
Yeah.
in the playoff teams. We were much
Right.
better last year on the playoff teams.
Although in the AFC, I got 3 division winners, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I only had 2 because you had the Ravens instead of the Bengals.
Well, Derek, that's the one thing that popped in my head today is I remember Derek picking. I just remember Derek being high on Baltimore. Derek
Right.
kind of knocked it out of the park on that because
Well, he's been riding them all year for sure.
I've been riding it for like 2 or 3 years.
Right.
And
I mean, eventually they got to win, right?
but there was I would scratch my head. I think it was on week 4. I was like, I just don't see it. And then I guess Burrow got hurt. That kind of changed everything, but still, Baltimore, yeah,
well, even the Bengals didn't even look good at the beginning of the season.
No. But when
you just knew that.
Baltimore lost that Cleveland game early in the season, that's when I kind of questioned them.
Yeah.
And then they just went on fire.
Yeah, but that was also they just didn't they just demolish the Niners and then go into play Cleveland the next week?
No.
No, they lost
Oh.
early. Was it Cleveland they lost early to, or was it Pittsburgh?
It was no, I think it was Pittsburgh.
Was it
Yeah,
Pittsburgh?
because
It
what
was either
happened, I
Cleveland or
remember because I
Pittsburgh.
think I sent the thing about
Yeah, because Cody Pickett like had a good game, and I was like, dude.
Maybe it was Pittsburgh. So
maybe it
here's
was.
an interesting stat for you guys. You know what Pittsburgh's division record was?
I don't know.
You never believe it.
I don't know.
5-1.
Pittsburgh in division 5-1. Really?
That's how you do it, though. I
In
mean,
the toughest division in football, right? The only division ever to have no teams with a losing record. So never in the NFL has a division gone without a team, all 4 teams having winning records.
right. Well, and you're right about the Ravens. They started off bad.
Yeah, who was that first?
Texans.
No, it wasn't Cleveland. It was the Steelers. Yeah, they lost week 5 to the Steelers.
Well,
I was like, they're 3-2. You just lost to the Steelers.
they lost to the Colts too.
Right. That was their first loss. But yeah, that was when they were 3-2 after the Steelers lost. I was like, man, I don't know about these Ravens.
Yeah, and then they just demolished the Lions, like just
Yeah,
blew them
chilled the
out.
Lions. Yeah,
Then
but
barely
we were
beat the
watching that game.
Cards.
We were watching that Lions
Yeah.
game. Yeah, and then
they destroyed the Seahawks by 34. Then they lost to the Browns.
Yeah, that was just kind of in the middle of a big win streak, though, and
Right.
that one wasn't as bad. It was the Steelers game I was thinking of because it was early in the
then,
season.
After they lost to the Browns, then they beat the Bengals, Chargers, Rams, Jags, Niners, Dolphins. Then they lost the Steelers, but no one played.
Right. You don't count the last game, right? Obviously. Yeah. So really, they only lost one of their last 10 games.
And then if you look at this, okay, 56-19 over the Dolphins, 33-19 over the Niners, and 38-6 over the Lions.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even beating, the Seahawks 37-3 and the Jags 23-7. I mean, you're just dominating big games throughout the season. So that's tough, when you're looking at on that side. So obviously we could have done better with our playoff picks. We have most of the main teams in there. The wild cards seem to be a little tricky this year.
Well, you always got to think of at least 4 teams that made the playoffs are not going to make the playoffs the next year. That's usually how it is.
Yeah. Yeah, but usually it's not a team like the Giants. The why the Giants is so confusing is you usually don't have a coach come in like that, turn the team around essentially, and you're fairly young in where you're re-signing your quarterback. You know, Saquon's healthy. It looks like your defense is playing well, and then to have that kind of switch, that just doesn't happen that often.
Right.
So that was a weird one. The Saints, I understand the Saints because they're just dysfunctional and they've been dysfunctional.
Well, they turned it on and they destroyed the Bucks and the Falcons
Yeah,
in the last 2 weeks. It's like what we thought was going to happen all year.
right.
Then they decided to show up at the very end, and it was too late.
Yeah, too late. It's too late. Yep. And then the Seahawks, right? The Seahawks for me, I mean, maybe I don't not remembering this right, so maybe I should just look at their schedule. But I feel like there was a point where like it was like they were going to the playoffs.
Yeah, they were.
Oh, they had so they had that 4 game lose streak right in the middle of the season where they lost to the Rams, the Niners, the Cowboys, and the night. God, that's a tough schedule though. So yeah, they went up against the Rams, the Niners, the Cowboys, and the Niners, and the Eagles in 5 games,
Right.
and they lost 4 of them.
Yeah. Yeah. I still think they need a quarterback. I think he kind of hit his ceiling this year. And
Right.
when you get a weapon, a beast like DK Metcalf, and you got the rookie from Ohio State, you got
Yeah.
Charbonnet, you got some weapons
Lockett.
there.
You got Lockett,
Yeah,
who's
Lockett's
probably
always there.
one of the best inside slot receivers still in football, right?
Yeah.
The guy's he's small, he's fast, he's hard to cover over the
Yeah.
middle of the field. And he can stretch the field if he has to. You got Jackson Smith and Jigma, who
Right.
looked like he was going to be really solid. And, I would still always take him. Don't you have to draft a quarterback if you're the Seahawks?
You have to. Yeah, because
Well, they should have last year when they had the 5th pick overall. They should have traded up and got.
Yeah, when you're watching them play the Eagles and you're looking at Drew Lock and you're saying, "Hey, maybe he should start over Geno Smith," there's a problem. It's Drew Lock.
This grandparent at Grayson's basketball game was wearing his Seattle stuff, and I was like, "Oh, tough luck." And he talked to me, and he's like, "Well, if they would have just kept Drew Lock in," and I was like, "Whoa, let's not talk crazy here."
Oh,
I was like, "You're really seriously saying that they should have kept Drew Lock in? He had one good game."
No,
Drew
he's not.
Lock.
He's like,
not the future.
Did he say after that?
And he's like, he
because
had
could
one
throw
in
it over
Denver.
a mountain?
You throw it over a mountain.
You throw it over a mountain?
It's like, wow.
No, you can't sit there. You can't look at Seattle and say Drew Lock is going to take us forward. Because I think if you do that, you're gonna destine yourself to middle of the road.
Yeah,
missing the playoffs just barely or making the playoffs just barely every year because you have a solid team all around him. So it's not like you're going to lose a bunch.
Yeah.
He's good enough to win 8 games, 7 games, right? He's good enough to keep you at 8 and 9 or 7 and 10 every year. But what does that mean? That means you never get a top draft pick again, unless you trade your good players up for it or you give away a bunch of draft capital.
Yeah, last year, they were in prime position. They just needed to trade up ahead of the Colts, take Richardson, let him sit. Just have Geno Smith this year.
Wouldn't you? I mean, yeah, obviously because they were already there, but it wouldn't this year. Looking at because they're going to come in right around 15 to 20 in the draft, probably 19 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it wouldn't a guy like Penix be perfect for Seattle?
I don't think he'll be there.
No, I don't think he'll be.
I'm just saying if you trade up like from 20 to like 10, right? So why not give up, another draft pick or two later in the draft or maybe next year's draft?
It's going from, let's see where they're at. And then It will show what they're
because they're
16.
yeah. See, they're not that far down. You know,
But to get so if we're looking at it, okay, we don't know what the Bears are going to do. Either they're going to take a quarterback or they're going to trade that pick for someone to take a quarterback, right?
right.
The Commanders, are we really going Sam Howell?
I mean, maybe.
And then the Patriots are they
They're
really
definitely
taking
going.
Wes's favorite player in the entire world
Yeah,
still?
they're definitely going quarterback.
Cardinals, that's a spot, but the Seahawks aren't going to trade.
No.
The Chargers don't need a quarterback, so I
Yeah.
guess you could trade to 5, but that will cost a lot. Giants, we don't know. Are they going to take a quarterback or not?
They
Even though
might,
they
but
gave Daniel Jones that huge contract.
right. And they got Danny DeVito.
Yeah. The Titans, we don't know where they're going now.
Yeah. They can't go quarterback again, though, can they?
Falcons are taking one. Do the Jets take one? Or are they going lineman, right?
Right.
Vikings, Kirk Cousins a free agent.
No, I think Vikings are going to go quarterback.
Vikings have to go quarterback.
Right.
They have to go quarterback.
Broncos are going quarterback.
Broncos definitely have to go quarterback as well.
Raiders are going would need to go quarterback.
Yeah.
Saints might be going quarterback.
They should.
They should, but I don't know that they will.
Yeah, because you still got Carr.
3, 4, 5. Okay, we're looking at 6 to 7 teams ahead of the Seahawks that want a quarterback.
Right. So, but yeah, you got to get up from 16, right? But it doesn't take a lot to get from 16 to 10.
Like
well,
you could,
it does
you could
if other
flop
teams want it
Tennessee.
too.
Yeah, but not if that team is not a quarterback team, though, right? So it just
they're going
depends
to go
on who.
higher than 10. I mean, you're going to talk.
Yeah,
you could have the first 3 picks be quarterbacks.
Maybe Seattle goes after Caleb Williams. They say, "Hey Bears, look what we got for you."
Yeah.
The other thing I was thinking about, and I know this is weird to say because I think he started so strong and he's a great running back, is why not trade Walker to move up?
you could.
Because you
running
got
backs have
Charbonnet, dude. Well, I mean, not a lot, but for a team that might need a running back in that situation, it's worth throwing him in there, saying, "Hey, we'll give you the." I guess the problem I have with what Carolina did last year is they really set a tough precedent this year for teams wanting to jump up quarterback.
Well, yeah, the Seahawks would have to give up Lockett or DK Metcalf to move up.
If they want to go up that high, yeah. But if I'm the Seahawks, what I'm saying is I think you got to target one of those quarterbacks if you can. Even if you have to give up draft capital to do it, because Geno, he's not good for you long term. Drew Lock's not good for you long term. But you have a team that's ready to build, like ready to play well. They just need that piece.
Yeah.
I would think for the Seahawks, I don't think they can jump up because the other teams are going to be. I would just hope and pray for Nix or McCarthy to drop to you because that's what you're going to get, really.
Yeah. I don't know. I think we'll find out what happens, but I'll bet you Nix goes before Penix.
It's a possibility.
I think he does. I mean, obviously, you're going to have pro days and combine things that make a difference, but I don't know. That's just me. It's just me, and maybe this last game threw me off on Penix a little bit, but I think teams, for some reason, I don't know why, because I wouldn't draft Nix. This is not me saying I would take Nix ahead of Penix, because I absolutely would not.
Right.
But I think that he does go ahead. But we'll see.
I look at Nix as a good college quarterback.
Yeah. I wouldn't draft Nix at all. I wouldn't draft him in the 3rd round. maybe I'm wrong on that too, but I just see him. I don't see him as a pro style quarterback. He doesn't have, for me, he doesn't have enough running ability and enough to run an effective RPO to play that style in the NFL to make it worth it to what with the limited passing skill he has.
He's a tweener. He's a
Yeah,
tween quarterback. He's not a good enough passer, but he's not a
right.
good enough
A good enough
runner. So
RPO guy, right? He's right in between that. That's exactly what he is. He's right in the middle of that, which makes him a pretty good college quarterback. So
would you take
that's trouble there.
would
Well,
you take
yeah, but you're
McCarthy before him?
no.
But
Well, I
for
mean,
Knicks,
Yeah.
I wouldn't take McCarthy either. But geez, between the two, I would take Knicks.
yeah,
I wouldn't draft McCarthy. I don't think he has a future in the NFL.
Well, he has a strong arm though.
Yeah,
he has a decent arm. He
he's
he
not.
he run he runs well. Um, it just seems like when you're talking about the full, just all the different types of throws, it seems like he just doesn't have that type of arm, and he makes questionable decisions, and he's not very big.
Maybe you just. I guess the problem I have with McCarthy maybe is that I haven't seen enough of him.
Right.
Even though I've
Yeah,
seen him play a lot, you haven't seen enough of him as a pro style
yeah,
quarterback to
yeah.
where,
McCarthy's bigger than Nick's. He's
yeah,
6'3".
No, I'm talking. Well, yeah, he has to put on some weight though.
Yeah.
I'm talking about like height. He's got to,
I would think so.
And he's 5 years younger than Penix and
Yeah,
Nix.
dude. Well, I don't think there's everybody is right. Jeez.
Well, Jaden
Uh,
Daniels is up there too, though.
yeah, he's been around. I think Travis is up there.
yeah.
But yeah, because you look at guys like Caleb Williams, who's actually surprisingly young. For when you
But
think about, I don't know. I feel like Caleb Williams has been around for a long time, but he's still surprisingly young. Drake May, obviously young. I guess that was what makes CJ Stroud such a good draft pick because he's still pretty young. When you look at that, when you compare him to some guys coming out now.
Yeah, he's 22.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I guess Penix is only 23.
How has that guy played so many seasons? But he'll be 24
yeah.
Oh, yeah,
when he
yeah. So
plays.
Nix is 23, but he'll be 24 in
Yeah.
February. Let me go back. I didn't look to see when. Oh, yeah, Penix will be 24 in May.
Yeah, they actually showed this stat. I don't remember which game I was watching, but I think it was the Texas Washington game.
Jaden Daniels will be 24 in December. So he's almost just he's just a 23-year-old now.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're all older than CJ Stroud.
Man, it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be an interesting one with all these guys. So
Anthony Richardson's 21.
yeah, he's real young. So yeah, we did great, pretty well on our picks overall. Good season. I felt like we could have done better. There was definitely some teams who didn't perform like we thought. There's quite a few times I know I ran with teams where I was like, man, at some point they got to turn their season around, but they kept losing. And so that cost me quite a few games. Obviously, at the end, I was trying to catch up, and so I picked some games I didn't normally wouldn't pick, but that still isn't, I still had a pretty decent record there. The overall, though, like I said, it was pretty good. 170 and 100, West, that's a solid season, and so West takes this year. Um, but playoffs, so let's see how we do in the playoffs. So we got the teams, we know who's going.
Playoff.
Playoffs. Talking about playoffs. We're get it. Here we go. Getting into HSC Podcast playoff predictions. First round, we'll we'll give our predictions, and then kind of want to feel out, what you think who's going to go all the way, who's going to win. That way, you could call the perfect bracket to start.
Oh,
It's kind of like
March Madness.
March Madness.
March
Can
Madness.
you get a perfect bracket? But let's get into the first round here, because it's a stacked first round. I don't think there's a lot of easy picks here as far as the games go. Let's just go by time and played. So we'll start with the Saturday games and move down. Cleveland at Houston's first game of the year for playoffs. Houston comes off a pretty big win, making the playoffs, winning the division, young team, young coach against the gritty Cleveland, bringing in Flacco to tie it all together after they couldn't have a quarterback to save their life. Best defense in the league, but on the road. So, how does this game play out? Wes, why don't you lead us off?
Yeah, none of these games are easy. This one, I like Cleveland. I just don't like them going to Houston. And I think there's a little bit of advantage there. I think Stroud is not gonna is not going to the pressure's not gonna get to him. He's played enough pressure games. I think Houston wins this barely. 23-20.
That's an interesting take on it. Like, because has CJ Stroud played in games of this magnitude? I mean, he didn't even play really in a college football championship.
Well, he played Georgia. He played in Georgia game. Those Utah Ohio State game. It was one of the best football games I've ever seen a quarterback.
Oh, that was a great game.
I don't even think those Rose Bowl records will be broken. Dude, the whole season. I mean, look at his completion percentage.
Right.
He only had 5 interceptions the whole season as a rookie. I'm not saying that the Browns. I really want to take the Browns to go deep, but going to Houston, it's just a funny place to go try to win.
Yeah.
I would if they would have went to Kansas City, I'm taking Cleveland all day long. This is
a tough one because I think
even Cleveland says, you know what, dude, we're going in there against the worst seed. We're hot and all this stuff, and that's when sometimes a team like Cleveland falls on their face.
Yeah. The issue I have with this game is how does because Cleveland's defense can take over a game. And that's an issue for any team, let alone a young team.
Yeah, I mean,
a young quarterback. Dude, when Myles Garrett gets after you, you want to talk about Penix last night? Like, talk about the day CJ Stroud will have when Myles Garrett's landing on him 2 or 3, 4 times a game. So that was that this was I think the kicker in this game is Cleveland's defense. So I'm going Cleveland. I think their defense, I think it's going to be a slow scoring game, and Cleveland's going to win with defense at the end. It's going to be an ugly game in the first half. They're both going to take a while to get their bearings. Neither team's going to look great in the first half. Ultimately, Cleveland will get some points just from Flacco's experience, and ultimately their defense wins 17-10.
We're talking about CJ Stroud's big game experience, but we've got to also talk about Playoff Joe. And Playoff Joe has won a Super Bowl
winner, yeah.
And he even when the way he made his money with the Ravens was playing well in the playoffs. So I'm taking the Browns here. I just think Texans are still too young. It's the steps. This is their first year. It was a nice story, but I think the Browns with their defense and the experienced quarterback win by 3.
Man, it's a chance for West to get on the board early again. West is gonna get the lead right away. Starting off with a swing
Well,
game.
that's a tough. It's so hard to pick that game.
It is.
For me, it was hard. I just, it's one of those feelings like, God,
I mean, Houston's at home, dude.
I put money on the Browns here to make the Super Bowl. I got to bet on this. And when
you probably got pretty good odds.
The last game against the Texans played, and then I saw it, and then I'm like, dude, why do I have to play the Texans?
Yeah. But, I mean, the Cleveland, they have a lot of tools, but you got to go into Houston. It's a young team, so they don't. That's the problem. Sometimes a young team doesn't understand how important a game is, and they understand the magnitude of what they're doing. They're just out there playing their ass off, and they could win. But I've always said, I didn't say this, but defense wins championships. But I've always felt like in the NFL, I would rather take a solid defense into a game than a solid offense. So we'll see. This should be a good game. But swing game, first game, interesting. Miami at Kansas City. I mean, here's another one. So I'll lead off on this one. Miami, I mean, both of these teams, in my opinion, are reeling right now. Yeah, Kansas City won their division, but look who's in your division. Miami, you're floundering a little bit at the end, but you still got all this offense, all this talent on your team, but you're not coming through in the big games at the end like you should. And Kansas City just doesn't look like Kansas City to me. So who really wants to win this game? Neither of you. Neither team wants to win this game. But it's in Kansas City, so I was like, wow, okay, well, Kansas City in the playoffs at home, it's probably going to be cold, like super cold, right? They're
They
getting
said it was going to be like
nailed.
10 degrees.
Right, they're getting just hammered. And so everything would tell you go with Kansas City, so I'm going with Miami. I think Miami. I don't trust Kansas City right now, and you could blame Taylor Swift if you want for getting in Travis Kelce's head, but I don't trust him. I'm gonna go with Miami.
With the how the weather is being, and everyone's going to be like, "Oh, Miami can't play there." But you know what? Miami's biggest strength is their running game,
right?
And Mozart is going to. It's also kind of like the Dolphins made you think that they're not very good because they have all these injuries, and instead of pushing, they rested guys. So I think Mozart will be out there, Waddle will be out there. So I'm taking the Dolphins. I just think that Kelsey's getting old. Chiefs have no one else. Pacheco's banged up. So yeah, I'm going to take the Dolphins here with the upset, and hopefully win by like 7.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do, Wes?
I'm taking the Dolphins too. I mean,
that'd have been the perfect time to be like, nope, I'm going Kansas City.
I would. Derek's exactly right. This is my mindset too. It's going to be cold. Of course, they can never predict the weather anymore, but it's just going to be cold. And I think I think Moser, I think they're going to run the ball effectively. And I still think Tyreek has got a touchdown or two in him just to give them the finger on the way out the door, right?
Yeah, he might still have a little bit of chip on his shoulder.
Yeah. And I think that's a little bit of a factor here because people think the Dolphins are, they're kind of they're about done. I think they're gonna play well enough in this game, and I think Kansas City is gonna have one of those frustrating offensive performances. So I'm taking the Dolphins 30-26.
Yeah, I actually think the Dolphins win fairly comfortably. I got them by 10. Yeah, I think it'll be like a 31-21.
Meaning the Chiefs win.
We'll see. I mean, we're all in agreement there. But it's hard to bet against Kansas City at home. Like, I guess common thought process is to not bet against the Chiefs at home
Right.
in the playoffs, especially with the refs on their side.
Yeah. Although they've been whining this year, so maybe the refs aren't
Right.
going to be on their side.
Well, it's a different script this year, right?
Yeah, maybe the
Chiefs are
refs
like
are anti-Taylor Swift.
Chiefs are mad that the script got changed on them.
Yeah.
They're gonna go on strike. All right. Well, Sunday morning starts off Pittsburgh at Buffalo. Again, probably pretty dang cold.
Yep. This is probably the easiest, I would say the easiest game to pick. TJ Watt's not playing. So yeah, I got the Bills winning by 14.
No. The Steelers, I don't think the Steelers have a chance either, to be honest with you. So I think at Buffalo is just playing pretty good football right now. They're on obviously a win streak, but they're on a momentum high. They're on an emotional high as a team. So I just don't know that the Steelers could win this game. Wes is changing camera angles.
No, my phone is dying. So
what do you got?
I got the Bills. I just think the Steelers, they don't have Watt. Still think their offense is somewhat limited, so I think the Bills should win fairly comfortably, 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I think score wise, I got Buffalo. I don't think they'll blow them out, but I think they'll win by 6. I would think probably, like a 23-17 or something like that. So I think that'll be close. Here we go. Game 2 on Saturday. Green Bay at Dallas. What do you got, Wes?
Oh man, I really wanted to take the Packers so bad, just because it's the Cowboys, and
history would tell you.
history does tell me that this is where the Packers win. I just don't think Christian Watson is kind of like I'm still looking. He's still got that hamstring issue. I think he's probably still going to play, but defensively, they're not that good. I think it's gonna be hard to stop Dallas passing attack. I can't believe I'm actually saying that. Like I feel like I'm in the twilight zone. Like
You mean
passing attack,
MVP Dak
Troy Aikman,
Prescott?
Michael Irvin. No, Dak Prescott. So
Well,
I
CeeDee
think
Lamb though is
CeeDee Lamb is balling.
playing really well.
He's taken it to another level.
Yeah.
I think that's good for Dak because now he feels like, you know what, I might be an elite quarterback.
Yeah.
And so, I'm taking the Cowboys by 10.
I would nothing more like than both these teams to lose, but that probably can't happen. So I don't think Green Bay is there. I think they're obviously lucky to even get in the playoffs. I think, unfortunately, that they're building up, from what I thought they would be a little faster than they thought they would. But I don't think you can go into Dallas with the team you have and beat the team they have. I think Dallas easily wins 28-14.
Yeah, I agree. This is probably going to be the worst playoff game we have. The Cowboys will probably win by 21, and then all the talking heads will say, "Oh, how great the Cowboys are,"
Yeah.
something like that. It's like, no, they're playing the Packers.
We get all the cowboy love.
Yeah.
So all in agreement there. Let's see. Rams at Detroit. So I actually think this will be a good game. I think the Rams will compete, but Detroit ultimately will win this game. They need to win this game for their psyche. Like after the year they've had, few ups and downs, but they really feel like they're a contender. I can't see them losing this game, but I think the Rams will compete. So I think it'll be a close game. I think Detroit pulls it out in a close one. I'm going to say 31-28.
Jared Goff revenge game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm taking the Lions here. I think they're built. Well, actually, I can't really say that because Kyron Williams is doing really well running the ball, but the Lions, their running attack with Montgomery and Gibbs is what's built for the playoffs. So yeah, I'm taking the Lions. To win a close one.
It's hard though, because it's also like a Stafford revenge game, right?
It's not really though, because Stafford, they were nice to Stafford and
Right. And he already got his Super Bowl.
Goff was, they're like, we don't think you can win a Super Bowl. We're kicking you to the curb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you got to think that Stafford wants to beat the Lions.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of Goff's own fault in the first place. He moved next to the Kardashians and it all went south. So
That's funny.
I honestly I thought this game is a little more difficult. I think the Rams are pretty darn good. And I think I trust Stafford more than I do Goff. But come on, this is Detroit's home game. This is like their homecoming game here. They gotta win this game. And I think they'll figure it out. I think just Gibbs is gonna have a big game. And Montgomery, I think they're gonna run the ball effectively. And then I think Goff's gonna make some plays downfield because I think there is something there. Like, hey, you know what? Even though I think McVay is got some, he knows Goff. He knows why he sucked for a while. So, but I still think they figure it out. I got Detroit 30-25.
Yeah, is Laporta playing?
I think
The injury reports, I don't.
I thought
Some
he
of them aren't
was
out yet.
questionable at best. Like, so that was one concern I had. He has an outside shot of playing on at the game. So that's tough. Like, I think that's a
he
big
should
hit
not
for
have been
him.
played.
Right, you should have sat him. Yeah, that's tough. So I think it'll be a close. I'm still going to take Detroit as well, though. Yeah, I agree. I think we're all in agreement there. Last game for this week's picks gonna be the Monday night game. Philly at Tampa. Derek, you're up here.
This is a really tough one for me because, as Steve, a quote from Steve from earlier in the season, how do the Bucks keep winning games? And then you got the Eagles, and how do they
How do they
keep
keep
losing
losing
games?
games?
It's like, come on, man. I think this just it worked out in the Eagles' favor that they got the Bucks though. So I'm taking the Eagles here, even though they haven't looked that great. Bucks haven't either. They got blown out by the Saints and barely they couldn't do anything against the Panthers.
Yeah. Well, and they snuck into the playoffs on the strength of an easy schedule, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
to finish the season, and
Yeah.
they are in the worst division in football. So
Yeah. I'm taking the Eagles here. Not that confident because the way the Eagles have been playing, but I'm still taking the Eagles.
what do you think, Wes?
Yeah, they definitely didn't save the best for last in this game. I mean, um, I'm going with the Eagles too, just by default. Even though I think Baker, I will hand it to him, he did have a pretty good year. I think even though the Eagles have completely collapsed, I think they'll rally here just to advance. And I think they're good enough to advance against the Buccaneers. So I'm taking the Eagles 21-19.
Close game. I think I agree. I think the Eagles have too much offense to lose this game. I think it'll be a competitive game, but offensively, they have too much offense to lose here. So, I mean, but it is the Bucks, they just keep winning. 9-8 in the playoffs. No, I gotta go with the Eagles for sure. Um, I mean, they still finished 11-6, even not playing their best football. It's playoff time. It's really time for them to turn their season around. This is the game that can get them back on the right track. I think they'll score quite a bit. I'm looking here at a 7-point victory. I think maybe like a 31-24 in a fairly good scoring game. So let's wrap up in the first round, wild card. I think the only swing game we have is Cleveland and Houston, right?
Yeah.
That
So either
means
we're
3 other games are going to go the other opposite way.
yeah, it means we're all right or we're all wrong. So that's a yeah. I mean, we'll see how these play out because there are a couple games that there are games to be worried about, right? I think Kansas City, you have to worry about them at home in the playoffs and in the weather. Um, Detroit, the Rams game, I think you got to worry about the Rams just because their offense, Stafford, the way the receivers are playing. That's a tough one too. I can't imagine Green Bay winning. I can't imagine Pittsburgh winning, but who knows? It's the playoffs. It's the NFL. So we'll see how that turns
Any
out.
given
So
Saturday, Sunday, or Monday.
any given weekend, long weekend. So given this, as we kind of as now we know kind of where we set our first round, what's your playoff tree look like for the divisional? Right, and we're pretty much all in the same agreements on most of the games, so it's not you're looking at uh the divisional round. We'd be looking at Baltimore playing
The Dolphins.
the Dolphins, or oh yeah, well if they win,
Yeah. If for the way we have it,
right, if it goes the way we go, but if Houston, no, either way,
no,
yeah,
it's just
Either
the
way.
Dolphins. The Dolphins are
The
because they'll be
Dolphins.
the lowest seed that we've picked.
yeah, right. So Dolphins at Baltimore. But if Kansas City wins and then Cleveland wins, they could be playing at Cleveland. So there, I mean, obviously there's different outcomes, but yeah, let's say Baltimore, Miami scenario, but who do you have in your divisionals moving forward? Let's just go with that. What are the 4 winning teams you got?
I've got Ravens, Bills, Niners, Lions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got the same. I got Ravens, Bills, Niners, Lions winning the divisionals. Given that we have the same picks, they're all the same games. Beat San
Yeah.
Francisco, beating Philly, Detroit beating Dallas, Baltimore beating Miami, Buffalo beating Cleveland.
Yeah, the only difference I have is Cowboys winning.
So you have Cowboys beating Detroit.
Yeah,
So San Francisco, Dallas, Baltimore, Buffalo.
yeah.
Conference finals. I got those 4 going, and I got San Francisco and Baltimore winning in the conference.
Yeah, me too. It's pretty boring. The 1
Yeah,
seeds.
pretty boring taking the 1 seeds.
Yeah,
Wes, you gonna
but
throw Dallas in there over San Francisco? Or maybe you're gonna throw in Buffalo over Baltimore.
Well, I really wanted to. I just think that Buffalo is not going to the Super Bowl losing because they're going to play the Niners, and I don't see that. I don't even see him barely. Josh Allen just turns the ball. He just careless the ball, and I think that's going to hurt him against the Ravens. They're going to make him pay for that.
Yeah,
I'm going with Baltimore and the Niners too. I really don't want to go with both 1 seeds because it happened last year.
right.
I don't like doing it 2 years in a row. Trust me, I looked at every scenario, and
It's
almost
weird.
every scenario to me, I almost put the Rams. I was like, the Rams could run the table
Yeah,
and do some damage, but I can't just see some of these teams losing at home in
yeah.
a big playoff atmosphere. I think that's gonna matter.
I mean, we're
You know,
counting Cleveland out. Come on.
well, here's the thing. It's going to be Cleveland and Detroit in the Super Bowl.
why
That's what
would
we want.
Yeah. Tell me,
then
like,
I win 2,500.
is Cleveland not like the Ravens with what's his name? Trent Dilfer at quarterback, Joe Flacco at quarterback.
Well, Flacco, though, what is it? He put up, he almost broke the record for most yardage.
Oh
And
yeah,
like,
he's killing it in throwing the ball
Yeah,
too.
it's one of those. The only thing I'd say about that is it's an act that has to. I think it has to sneak up on you, and I think teams
Be
right now
ready
they
for
are
it.
on
Yeah,
everybody's radar. They're on
right.
everybody's radar. I guarantee it, and I think that's what's going to probably trip them up.
The the advantage I think Cleveland has right now, though, is their defense. That's what I think makes them more dangerous. Is you know, I mean, and we've seen a lot of players, and there's some players you look at right now, like TJ Watt and Nick Bosa, and all these uh your guy
Crosby.
Crosby, right? But when you look at Myles Garrett, he's such a beast.
Yeah,
And that's tough, to deal with. So, but I mean, obviously I have Cleveland losing in the divisional, but yeah, I mean, when you talk about the Rams, you talk about Cleveland, I mean, even Miami is dangerous.
Miami is dangerous,
If
and it's
if they
hard for me not to say they could beat Baltimore. But come on, what are we talking about here? Baltimore just
Baltimore
waxed
just
the stadium
waxed
with
them.
them.
Yeah, I mean
And it's like
it's
it's a
tough.
little too soon to be saying,
Right.
yeah, they're just gonna go down there and thump. And there's a lot. Lamar Jackson, I guarantee you, he's gonna hear it for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You know what? You just don't. He's gonna really lose in the divisionals. I mean, that's just gonna take a chunk out of his legacy, whatever
Yeah,
that is. This is his
Well, and
best
then
chance to get to and win a Super Bowl.
you're talking about like, you know, some teams got to go into San Francisco and beat them.
And I thought Philly, and I was like, no. I think the Rams actually have the one team that could sneak up on them. And if the weather, here's the thing. I took the weather as a factor because when San Francisco, it rains, it pours.
Yeah.
And
It's
some of those
nasty.
playoff games really have tripped up the Joe Montanas. And Brock Purdy is not the biggest dude in the world.
But can you
I
trip
think
up Christian McCaffrey?
that's when you ride. That's what I thought is
Yeah.
they're going to ride Christian McCaffrey and they'll figure it out.
Yeah. So, I mean, sounds like we all have San Francisco, Baltimore in the Super Bowl. Who you got winning though?
Niners. I think the Niners going to figure it out. And I think Brock Purdy is going to show people that, you know what, he is an elite quarterback. I think that game against Baltimore, you have those games sometimes. I think Shanahan will
Try to keep him out of those
figure it out.
positions. Yeah.
Yeah.
He'll try to take better care next time.
Yeah.
I gotta agree. I think San Francisco figures it out in the end. I mean, Baltimore has shown a lot by beating San Francisco, by beating Miami heavily, beating Detroit heavily. Uh, I have a hard time believing that San Francisco would go in twice and get
Yeah.
mopped up.
And the defense has something to prove because
Yeah.
they did not play well.
Well, yeah, neither did. I mean, the whole game was bad, both sides of
Yeah.
the ball. Yeah.
So.
So I'm saying San Francisco wins the Super Bowl. I think it'll be a good game. It'll be a close game, but we'll take San Francisco in the end.
You know,
We know
I'm
who Derek's taking.
taking the Ravens. One, dude. Kyle Shanahan's not that great of a coach. He's a choke artist.
Oh,
Hello, 28-3. That was all his fault.
Yeah.
You got a Harbaugh.
Brady, man. That was Brady.
You're playing Tom Brady.
Yeah, when you don't give the ball, don't run the ball at all the entire second half, that kind of.
No, that haunts him. Yeah.
I'm taking Ravens, one, because Lamar Jackson's a lot better. He can put the team. Brock Purdy can't put that team on his shoulders.
Right.
He needs help. Lamar can. Ravens defense is just as good as the Niners defense this year, but people don't talk about it. And they got Harbaugh. He's a better coach.
Yeah, I mean that's an advantage. I think having Harbaugh, somebody who's been there, historically is a good coach. I definitely think that's a bonus for the Ravens for sure.
And then who are you going to take? The best kicker could be considered ever. You got for the Ravens, right?
I mean, he didn't play good when it mattered for me, but he didn't help my fantasy football team. Big games until I need him to have a good game. So yeah, I mean, obviously you're in the Super Bowl, so both teams have to. There's a reason they're there, right? They're both really good. If San Francisco can't turn the ball over, obviously, like they did against them the first time, because how do you win a game? Any game, I don't care who you're playing, you turn the ball over like that.
Yeah.
And then is Christian McCaffrey healthy all the way through the Super Bowl? And if he is, then you don't put the game on Brock Purdy's shoulders. You put the game on Christian McCaffrey's shoulders, and you hope that you can run the ball.
It's the Deebo, McCaffrey, and then don't forget the George Kittle show.
When Brandon Ayuk too.
With
Ayuk,
I mean, yeah, it's
a lot of weapons.
There's a lot of ways they can win. There's a lot of ways they can lose.
Yeah.
Which with the Ravens, it's all on Lamar Jackson.
Zay Flowers, your buddy Zay.
Zay Flowers, yeah.
Oh,
No,
yeah, my
I mean
buddy.
it is. It really is going to come down. I think the whole playoffs is Lamar's show.
Really does. Yeah.
Baltimore could lose their first game if Lamar doesn't play well.
Yep.
San Francisco can still win if Purdy doesn't play well. So that's tough. I mean, but this is where you find out how MVP-ish Lamar is. Is right. I think this playoffs we'll find out.
It's Dak Prescott. Let's stop this, dude. It's Dak.
Yeah.
The Dak
Well,
attack.
there's a lot of argument. There's a lot of argument about Dak Prescott and the MVP.
I can't even believe it. Are we in a dream? Is this like
statistically, if you look at his stats, they're pretty good.
They are good.
Yes.
He had a good year, I'll admit.
But Dak Prescott has CeeDee Lamb.
Right.
Yeah. It's like if Mac Jones played well, I would say Mac Jones, he's good. Oh no, I wouldn't. I'd say he's still sucks.
Now, the Super Bowl I want is Bills Lions.
No, I want the Dolphins versus the Cowboys.
Oh,
Dolphins,
Cowboys.
That's interesting.
Boat race them. Revenge for Super Bowl 6. Revenge.
I cannot have. If I'm looking at the list, the Cowboys, Steelers, or Packers cannot be in the Super Bowl.
Right. No, I agree with that. I can't handle that. I can't handle Kansas City going to the Super Bowl again.
Kansas City. Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
Put those
Kansas City goes to the Super Bowl. We got a lot of podcast topics that are not going to be.
So, what's crazy is, to be honest with you, the Super Bowl I want is Baltimore and San Francisco. Because not only is it the two best teams, I think when I look at this season, the dominance that in times that both these teams have shown, both of them had struggles, either early or middle or wherever in the season, right? San Francisco had that 3-4 game losing streak, and Baltimore didn't start well. But this is a game I want to see because I really believe that they're the two best teams. In the league, and I just really want to see what happens when the two best teams go to play in the biggest game. And God forbid we get a Super Bowl I actually want to watch all the way through to the end, every play, instead of watching this Kansas City, get every call to get to the Super Bowl and then Philly to play bad or like a blowout. I mean, just there's so many things. The Bengals Rams Super Bowl was fun. I did enjoy that Super Bowl, so that was good. That was fun to watch.
No, if they would have only given like a half second longer, the Bengals would have won that.
No more, dude. Don't do it to me anymore.
So I do. When I look at the teams, I don't think I'd want to see any other Super Bowl than Baltimore, San Francisco.
The only thing I care about is being healthy and actually being able to watch the Super Bowl with people.
Right.
Couldn't last year.
Yeah, you can't miss too many Super Bowls. Although Buffalo Detroit sounds interesting. That does sound interesting.
It's a win-win.
So the guy that I hate. I can't even remember his name. That's how much I hate him. The Nick, whatever his name is.
Right.
Yeah. This guy, I would not a mean person but I'd throw him off a cliff. Like he just this guy. So for the simple reason that it was like 5-6 weeks ago when they said there were Vegas odds where Buffalo has 17% chance to win to go to the playoffs. I mean, not to win to go to the playoffs. And he goes on the show and he's telling all of his colleagues, he's like, "I'm here to tell you right now, Buffalo has 0% chance of making the playoffs. They will not make the playoffs." And just like going off on it, 0% chance. Mark my words. I'm telling you guys all right now. I know. And he comes back and Buffalo makes the playoffs. Just so Buffalo would go to the Super Bowl, I'd be like, now you need to fire that guy.
Yeah. He does that all the time, though. He's also the guy that had Jordan fourth and the all-time greatest player, like NBA
Right.
players.
Yeah, dude.
But yeah, it would be interesting for Buffalo though to make that run that they did from 17% chance to make the playoffs and then to go to a Super Bowl.
Well, let's be honest. This isn't the year we thought. It was the last few years we thought Buffalo would do it, and they choked.
Right.
Every
Yeah,
year.
and they're sitting in. They got to that too. My friend, he's just a diehard, and I see him like almost every other day, and he's like, and when he was going through that slump, I go, I think they'll still make the playoffs and do some damage, but man, you're gonna have to win a lot of games. You can't lose games, and they didn't.
No,
They did what
they
they had to do. Even the Miami game, it's like, oh man, you guys are gonna lose to Miami after all this, and then you had the punt return for the touchdown,
Yeah.
and you're like, it's over. They're gonna win now.
Yeah.
But I just can't sit there and them going into Baltimore and Josh Allen. I mean, he threw some bad passes in the Miami game. I mean, that interception in the end zone, I was like, dude, were you throwing it? Did you see? You have like double vision. How do you even throw that pass?
Because he thinks he can
can't
put the ball anywhere, dude.
They're gonna, and I also can't have them beating the Niners because I think that's just a recipe for disaster. Them going to the Super Bowl to play the Niners.
Right. Well,
'Cause I
Buffalo
think
in
the
any
Niners-
Super Bowl is a recipe for disaster.
The Niners, they're not accustomed to losing too many Super Bowls,
Yeah.
and they've lost two,
Yeah.
and that's a lot for them. They haven't won a Super Bowl since before the Niners, the Cowboys won it.
Right.
It's been 29 years.
What was their last Super Bowl? Who'd they lose to?
The Chiefs.
They lost the Chiefs. Okay.
They lost to Baltimore. It was the one before that.
Yeah.
So it will be 11 years
Right. That was the
if
lights
they
out game.
meet up. And
who was the quarterback for the Niners against the
No, it was Colin Kaepernick,
Garoppolo.
dude.
Kaepernick.
Wasn't it Kaepernick?
Yeah, it's Kaepernick.
No, against the Ravens, but it was Garoppolo against the Chiefs.
Oh, yeah.
Garoppolo. The Chiefs,
Yeah.
Yeah, boy, it's just hard for me just to say the Niners can go to the Super Bowl and lose. But the Ravens are so good. The way they play them, it could happen. I think it's going to be really close.
Is this, I mean, you're talking about those old Niners teams that lost in the Super Bowl. I don't think they're even close to as good as this Niners team. Like, you look at all the offensive weapons and how
especially
their
the
defensive
last
weapons.
one. Especially the last one.
Have the Niners won a Super Bowl since Jerry Rice left?
No.
No, so he's 29 years ago.
1995.
Curse of Jerry Rice.
Yeah, no, that's it'll be interesting game, you know, and I that's why I want to see it. I want to see Baltimore, San Francisco. Because you have a revenge factor. Dude, if the Steelers and Packers, I won't watch football ever again.
Or Steelers Cowboys. Oh.
No, the Steelers Packers go to the Super Bowl.
That'd be awesome.
Dude.
I don't care.
Even know what I would do.
Every Super Bowl. Dude, I watched Trent Dilfer in a Super Bowl. I didn't care.
Yeah.
It was hard. Trent Dilfer versus Kerry Collins in a Super Bowl. I mean, are you kidding me?
Well, I would have thought you were going to say you've watched Neil O'Donnell in a Super Bowl.
I did. And I still do. That's fixed. There's no way you could throw those passes.
He's to Larry Brown. he's like, hits Larry Brown in the chest twice.
Here, just catch the ball.
Yeah.
Okay, Super Bowl trivia, Wes. Who, and I guess it's not trivia, but who is the worst quarterback for a winning team in Super Bowl history?
Super Bowl history. Oh my god!
Like
for you, who do you
or
consider?
Just who's the worst? Oh, just who you consider the worst?
Oh well, we're talking about kind of. There's Brad Johnson. There's Trent Dilfer. There's. And I would need a.
Is that who was Brad Johnson Tampa's quarterback?
Yeah.
Brad Johnson's quarterback.
Oh gosh, yeah. What about well, I guess they didn't win. So
But you're not talking statistically. You're just saying like overall, though,
Yeah, you're saying
who
yeah.
would be
Like
like you said?
they
I
went to
can't
the
believe
Super
this
Bowl with
guy.
that
I
quarterback.
can't believe this guy won a
I got
Super
one.
Bowl.
I got one. Jeff Hostetler.
Yeah, dude. But
wait,
dude, I mean, Phil Simms was quarterback too.
no, Chef Hosser came in and
Like
relieved.
he came in and finished the season, but they,
Yeah.
they got there with
Yeah,
Sims, playing.
that's not
But
that's probably pretty accurate.
yeah, Hostetler's pretty
I didn't
bad.
think about that. Yeah, there's been some most of the quarterbacks been pretty good.
Yeah, but you can go back a long way. But even the further you go back, it seems like the better the quarterbacks were.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they're the marquee, the guys with the
Right,
names are always there.
right. Yeah, there
I mean,
wasn't any Trent Dilfers. I mean, Trent Dilfer is that one's pretty big.
Dilfer was like the 6th pick overall.
Yeah, but he wasn't good.
He was okay though.
He's all
He
right.
wasn't garbage.
But yeah,
I know.
Because because you got
Yeah, Brad
Foles.
Johnson,
Nick
Nick
Foles.
Foles.
oh yeah.
Dude, Nick
Nick
Foles is a good one.
Foles. Winner, chicken dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nick
Nick
Foles.
Foles is a good one. They're recent, right? I mean, not all
Yeah.
were super recent, but in the last 20 years, 25 years, you got some notables.
I mean, you could say Doug Williams.
Yeah,
No
I mean,
way.
what did he really do?
That was when he came out. I mean, Doug Williams was
He wasn't
good
a good
when he came out
quarterback.
of college. I mean, he almost led Tampa Bay to the Super Bowl in his second year. They lost in the NFC Championship game to the Rams. Tampa Bay, like
Right, Tampa. That's
in
pretty.
their orange uniforms. In
Yeah, even Trent Dilfer couldn't
1979.
do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking early 80s.
No, oh no, he lost.
Yeah, because you had
No,
Tana, you had Plunkett, you had
oh, you had Montana, Plunkett, you had Theismann, you had
McMahon, Jim McMahon.
McMahon.
I mean, come on. He was a pretty
McMahon,
bad
man,
quarterback when you think about it.
McMahon was all right.
He was like a Trent Dilfer. That's the thing, though.
He
It's like,
was.
Yeah, but he had the flash and the pizzazz.
Yeah.
He could lead
He's
the
like,
team.
I know I suck, but you know what? I don't care.
We're gonna win.
We're gonna win.
Yeah, what do they have in common? Trent Dilfer and Jim McMahon. Best defenses ever.
yeah.
So all you got to do to win a championship is be a horrible quarterback and have the greatest defense.
Well, it's like just have a really good defense and don't turn the ball over, right?
Right.
That's
Cleveland, dude. You got to watch
It's
out.
gonna be, if it's Mason Rudolph, we're gonna be Mason Rudolph.
Steelers defense, they're good, but they're not like historically good.
not without TJ Watt. He's not playing.
Asking a lot.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you look at it and you're like, are we too like going with the favorites too much, sticking with the ones, things like that? But like Wes was saying, like as you break it down, like it just makes too much sense.
It just makes
on paper.
I hate doing the number one seeds. I was like, I can't do it 2 years in a row. I can't do it.
It's like when you're doing March Madness, dude.
It's not going to happen. But then you think about it, and I can't think. I'm not going to be shocked.
Sports.
I'm not going to be shocked if you see something, a little hiccup, but nothing that massive.
Oh, we don't even know the injuries can happen too.
Yeah. Injuries can happen.
Well, it happened to San Francisco last year when Purdy went out in the Philly game.
I think weather.
Then your backup gets hurt, and now you're playing Christian McCaffrey at quarterback.
Right.
Oh, jeez.
They're getting ready. He's like taking snaps over on the sideline. Oh, that's funny. All right, well, we'll wrap it up there. We'll of course jump back in next week, talk about our picks, see where we're at ultimately, how we failed in the first round. But we've had a pretty good uh record in the playoffs, in the past. So hopefully we can continue that trend. So we'll see how that goes. Again, thank everybody for still listening. Don't forget, subscribe, like, but mostly for the people listening on Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts. Thanks for the listens. We never get any comments or anything, but we're getting listens, so I appreciate that, and we'll let everybody know. Don't be afraid to comment, but if you're not subscribed on YouTube, which we also get different viewers each week on YouTube. We don't get a lot of the same viewers over and over, except probably my sister. But the new people listening, please subscribe too. Like, just it's not that hard. Even if you're not listening every week, just hit subscribe. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. We'll hit you next week.